saw you from the distance. Hey, you, can we talk? Hey, you, I think you're my subsistence. Hey, you, or am I wrong? And now, I lose my
Ego versus true self is actually not a competition. It's more like the true self simply waiting patiently for the ego to realize that it wants to surrender to the true self. Once it starts to realize that its life will be better when he starts to surrender to the true self. But sometimes, a lot of times, life situation needs to happen so that the ego, the mind, needs to start to be a problem. Because if it's not a problem, there's no reason to actually start surrendering to the true self. How would I explain the true self? Well, let's say you're in a situation and you really don't like that situation. You're sick, or you're wheelchair, you're paralyzed, or you have cancer. All of a sudden, the mind can start to see it as a real big problem, and it starts to complain, and it starts to be fearful, and it starts to be in a non-accepting mode, in a frustrated mode. But the true self is kind of behind the scene, simply waiting for the ego to let go and surrender to it. It's like the true self is there to observe the madness, because the suffering is actually coming from the non-acceptance of the situation. Because if I have a shoulder pain and it's just painful, it's just painful. I don't have any judgment over it. It's just what it is. The body's doing what it needs to do, and then it kind of goes away. But if I have a shoulder pain and I start to really get into the complaining mode and the victimize mode, and that energy comes from the thought patterns of the mind itself. And these thought patterns needs to be seen kind of as an observer in the background. So the observer, once he starts to observe the situation, the ego starts to lose its power, and the observer starts to gain power. Because every time you start to feel a certain way, a victimized way, you go and you notice, what am I thinking? Where are my thought patterns? And then from this awareness, it loses its power. And it seems to become stronger and stronger, this self-awareness. It's a beautiful way to go, but a lot of us, we are stuck in the mode that the ego is the king. So the ego versus true self, it's not really a competition. The true self has to prevail for us to live a freer life. But it can seem like a hard job at start, because it's like having a vase full of manure, and there's a little bit of water under it, and the vase have this shape that it's at the top of it, there's lots of manure. So you put a little bit of water in there and it pushes out a lot of manure, a lot of crap that's been put there, these thought patterns and these emotions from generation to generation to generation of passing on what needs to be cleansed. And once you start pouring water, there's a lot of shit coming out. So, but after a while, there's more and more water in it. Water symbolizes the idea that it's the true self starting to wash out the vase, so that eventually we humans start to tap into what we came here to tap into. The universe, reality, seems to go, it's not seems, it's going that way. This is This is not a question if. I know a lot of people think the universe is a dumb one. It's just random events that we kind of popped up. But the reality is that our reality is not dumb. It is going somewheres. It wants to manifest through us this peaceful strength of how beautiful life can be. It wants to go and manifest through us. God wants to become true you. All right, let's go see where we at, yeah? Oh. Yep, it's a beautiful day. So you know how it goes. Freedom is alive. Let's just get out of the way. Getting out of the way for it to manifest through us. This freedom and this ego is absolutely necessary, but it needs to surrender.